Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. What's up, everyone? Happy Thursday. It is May 15th, 2025. I hope you all are doing well. We're going to get right into this thing right here without delay. I'm excited to be here a fourth day in a row. Come on, somebody. Oh, man. Yep. Yes, I am. Trying to get back into my rhythm, more or less. So, I hope you have been appreciated the messages this week as much as I've appreciated sharing them. And we're going to see what thus saith Spirit today. Oh man, the Tower. What's this peeking out? Oh man, I'm seeing some dark cards. You know when it's dark, it's not usually great. We got the Tower. We got the Nine of Swords. And what's this? Oh, the Five of Swords. Oh man. What's that peeking out? Oh, and the Four of Cups. Oh, but I see the Sun here. I don't know. I kind of wanted to just kind of work with these, not do too much, but all right. Well, with this in mind, oh my God, and if oh God, I need to stop shifting the cards. Oh man. Okay. So, all right. First, what I'm sensing over here, as the Sun is partially hidden, I'm sensing that there either has been or is about to be an exposure of some hidden enemies. Yep, that's the Tower here, kind of aligns with that. Also, the Nine of Swords. And just like all these cards here really are not all that great. You know, it could even be hidden enemies being exposed, because the Sun, especially given I wasn't guided to pull it all the way out, it's like something that maybe is in the process of being revealed, or it may still even be, you know, maybe hidden at this moment, but it's inevitable that something's about to be exposed. And in connection with this Five of Swords is definitely about some type of enemies or competition, adversity, maybe some secret plot or plan. We kind of had that energy yesterday, unfortunately. And maybe the despair here or the anguish in the Nine of Swords is someone, I feel like, okay, is this someone, this either could be someone or someone's being afraid of being exposed as a part of this collusion here, or it could be the anguish of someone getting a revelation of things that have been going on behind their back, maybe perhaps even right under their nose. I'm getting that with the Four of Cups, like somebody didn't listen to their intuition and maybe missed some signs and some warnings, some signals about who they were surrounded by, who they were connected to, who maybe people they even may have considered friends or alliance, an acquaintance or an alliance, having an alliance with, or even a relationship, you know, a partnership, professionally, platonically, romantically. There's some betrayal that is being revealed here that someone is really in anguish about, because they either missed the obvious signs or they ignored the obvious signs. One of the two. You know, it's like in hindsight, they're like, damn, I should have known, or I should have seen that coming. Or it's like somebody, you know, once somebody has like an aha moment, and then now everything is crystallizing, everything's making sense. Like, I've had those moments that it can almost feel like a bit of a meltdown, a little bit like your reality, the reality as you knew it starts to like break down with the Tower card. Like everything you thought was solid was authentic, real, or at least, you know, for the most part, something that you could believe in. Maybe, I don't know why that's coming to mind, or trust. Like, I don't know, part of me doesn't feel like it's that deep, that somebody was so rooted that, you know, the upset is just mind-blowing. You know, it doesn't, maybe so with the Tower, but I feel like with the Four of Cups here and this Nine of Swords, it's more so about what was missed, or what was ignored, or what, or how someone may have been in denial. So now in reflection, as things are either starting to come to the surface or be revealed or exposed, like maybe little pieces and tidbits here and there, maybe somebody's having an awakening. I've been talking about rude awakenings lately, and it's like somebody's waking up from an illusion about what's been going on around them, or what they've really been engaged in. And is more so how they didn't listen to themselves, or follow that nudge or intuition that they had, that sense about themselves, that they had to maybe protect themselves, or get out, move on, disassociate, disconnect, whatever was nudging at them at a time. Maybe if they had listened when it was, there would be a different outcome. But now with the Five of Pentacles, somebody's in a position where, and the Tower, where it's too late. You know what I mean? Like, hindsight, as they say, is 2020, but insight, you know, that's a whole nother a whole nother level of vision that at this point in time is only going to do someone as good as how they can move forward from where they are now. And it wouldn't be in the Nine of Swords energy, where someone is regretful or fearful, paranoid even, because none of that matters. It's like the damage is already done, whatever it is. If we're at a Five of Pentacles, and whatever is about to be revealed of it is, I don't know, like, honestly, I feel like it could, the revelation could be what someone is most afraid of. It's like one thing when you find out that you've been misled, or misguided, or even if there's more responsibility on your part as to whatever you're experiencing. But it's another thing when it could potentially be exposed to others. So it's like, there's one thing to play yourself, but it's another thing to live with that reality. But it's another thing to potentially be embarrassed, you know, about that, you know, for it to be shared, or, you know, common knowledge amongst people that may or may not even have anything to do with the situation. Like, the sun is a bright illumination, you know, like, and as I'm saying, it may or may not have anything to do. Here's a kid here, like, there's a certain innocence here, and either someone is afraid that of their guilt by association being exposed, or they're actually afraid of however they've been, whatever they've been invested in, or in what's the word, complicit in, will look once it gets out, you know, like how they'll be judged or seen, you know what I mean, more or less when it does. So either way, whether they're a victim or were vulnerable to something or whether they were complicit, somebody's afraid of like pretty much being embarrassed, you know, maybe looking dumb. What's this? Yeah, like, yeah, because they're holding on to their public persona, their reputation, their, you know, their public identity, you know, their appearances, you know, whatever they've staked their self projections on has the potential to be challenged or dismantled on account of something getting out. I'm gonna just leave it at that. All right. Whatever it is with the Five of Pentacles, it has the potential to do some damage, or it already has done a lot of damage with the Tower here, or it's just so shocking, you know, that somebody may be afraid that they'll never be able to recover from it, or like their reputation may never be able to be repaired after it's released or shared or whatever. So let's see what else we got. It's been a lot of karmic messages. I guess 'tis the season. We are still kind of in that Scorpio, which the Tower is partially Scorpio. It's like Mars energy. I think so. Somebody explained it to me why it's partially Mars or why it's Scorpio, because it's something about endings, and at one time Scorpio used to be ruled by Mars, or it still is. I don't know, something. I don't pretend to know all the ins and outs of astrology for sure, but there's some connection there to Scorpio and to endings, which makes sense to where we are right now in this transit. And things coming to a conclusion, or there being closure brought to open-ended circumstances, you know, perhaps things that have been gaping open for a long time, or transpiring, maybe even cycles and seasons that have been underway for a long time are like finally coming to a close now, you know, for some new things to emerge. Justice. Well, that sums it up in a word. Yeah. Karmic justice is what's underway. And, you know, just depends on what side of those scales you fare on, you know, hopefully somewhere balanced in the middle, you know what I mean, more even kill. But in terms of the disparity between, karma and dharma, you know, one would actually hope to tip the scales more on the dharmic side in this season, because for the other side, it's heavy, you know, it's heavy, it's burdensome. We got the Two of Wands, always about direction, decisions, taking action. This could be about, like, as I was just saying, like your response to what is unfolding. And that's funny because as I was saying, as I was actually saying, you know, it can be heavy, it can be burdensome. I was going to follow up with depending on how you perceive it. Like, I thought to say that, but then I was just like, just leave it there. Because for some, at the onset of like finally facing karmic retribution or justice in the way that it's kind of been dishing out, even in the messages lately, it does feel burdensome, of course, especially when it kind of almost forces you, which is never a force, but it's a strong urgence to shift paths, to shift or change directions, to renew your mindset, in some cases to completely make over your way of life or your way of doing things in a way that doesn't really feel all that comfortable when you've been accustomed to a certain life of privilege and leverage over justice, over what is fair and what is honest in some ways. With people that have more or less, like I said the other day, been getting away with murder, not maybe actually, but in some way, shape, or form, just kind of living life as they feel like it without any consideration of consequences or responses and reactions to their actions. Now having to face this, like almost hitting a brick wall, like you can't do things the way that you used to do them before. Not only is it not effective, it can also be harmful to whomever tries to operate in that function. And there's just like this like gravitational pull toward righteousness now that, like I said, the pull itself can be uncomfortable if you've been resistant to it all this time. But if there's any compliance or submission at all, it's still not cozy. It's still not easy to switch gears. So, but nonetheless, it's certainly the most prosperous approach to life at this time, when you may be seeing that things are not really working out either the way that they were once upon a time, or that you're not as invested or satisfied with how things are working out, doing things or being a certain way. Change, as it is with Scorpio energy, transformation isn't always comfortable, but it definitely has a bright side. If you can kind of get through the bumpy road or the discomfort, the growing pains, I don't know, whatever it is that people are facing right now. Two of Pentacles, like kind of finding yourself through, like juggling that process of shifting, where you literally just don't even know if you are enough to see it through, where there's a call to order, there's a call for change, there's a call to, like, similar to that Four of Cups, it's like people don't want to, this may not have happened yet, but I feel like this may be the trajectory of those that are really in the market to shift for a greater result of themselves. Those that are serious about it don't want to revisit the outcome of having missed the signs as they may have before to what has put them in a position that they're in now. It's like nobody really wants to be struggling in life if they don't have to be. Even though the choice to change may seem daunting, it may seem quite challenging. If you have the option to have things be different for you, or even the potential for a different outcome, most people in their right state of mind would want to take it, So, like I said, it might be a turbulent shift, to change gears or change directions, but the benefits do have a lasting effect, even an eternal effect here, as is depicted with the Two of Pentacles, that the struggle might not last always. Hell, depending on your degree of dedication and determination, it might not last for long. It just depends on how submissive you are to the process, whatever that process is, uniquely to whomever, because it's certainly different for everybody. For some, we might just be talking about, you know, changing careers, which can seem like a scary thing if you've been doing something, you've been in one field for most of your professional life, or changing locations, moving, stepping out and sharing some new talent or gift of yourself, like maybe something that was a hobby is now an actual, like it's going to become a full-time professional pursuit, so it could be something really that small, that at first, there's no measure of certainty that you can depend on, because you don't really know how it's going to turn out. But what you do know with the Justice card is that you're going towards something that feels right, that maybe even feels righteous in a deeper sense. So that could be as small as what I just said, or it can be on a much larger, more significant, well, not to say that's any less significant, the things I just said, but it could be deeper, or it could be feel like an even greater challenge, like completely making over your mindset, or your habits, or your attitude towards other people, or about life itself, your belief systems, your confidence. Sometimes a overhaul like that comes by way of those seemingly small changes and rearrangements in life. The things that we have found a security or a dependency on, that seem like the last thing you would really want to tamper with if you didn't have to. But sometimes just those small adjustments can make all the difference in a much bigger way. Like, doing what you love can actually bring more happiness into your life. Or breaking up with that, in that relationship you're not happy in, can actually set your mind and your passion free, maybe even your time and attention free, to invest in what you really, something else that's more prosperous or even profitable, even if it's just yourself. Investing more in yourself. So I guess that really does speak to, like, the simple things can be the hard things as well, but can make way for the major shifts. With the Hierophant, yeah, this is like, in this case, I feel like it's answering to a higher calling. And maybe even appointing yourself as the superior of your life, or reinstating yourself into that appointed seat where you may have deferred that power outside of yourself to other things, other people, other ideals, especially with the Hierophant, because it speaks to tradition and society and conventionality, bringing it back to the primitive example of a job, which it could also represent, like a corporation, where you could be afraid to step out of what seems to be a stable income or living or whatever, or even stepping out of what might be like societally acceptable for you to, a societally acceptable expression of yourself, where you're kind of in the pocket with what more or less everybody is doing, or at least doing things or being in a way that wouldn't raise any eyebrows. You know, like you go to work, you work out, you come home, maybe have a little fun on the weekends, do it all over again. You know what I mean? Like just having a certain, yeah, with this, even with the Two of Pentacles, like a certain rhythm and cycle. What's the word that I really want to find? Not rhythm, kind of rhythm or cycle, but like a certain pattern, I guess, that is, you know, not really, not very divergent, you know, from the norm of what you've always done or what's expected of you, or what you've even come to believe is your limitation of possibilities by, again, a certain outside authority or standard. You know, that's definitely, there's room for that as well, and the stepping out and doing something different, literally between the two, as this guy is choosing this wand that's kind of elevated here, and the Two of Wands with the world, and taking the world in his hands, like taking the world by storm. And this guy is more or less, this could even be the thought of being, again, in submission to something or someone that's higher than you, or that you allow to kind of dictate literally what you do with your life, with your time, with your energy, with your attention, with your money, or even how you earn your money. You know, it's a stark difference here. But like I said, I originally connected with it as being transitioning from being the follower to being the authority, you know, in your life. The leader, maybe even someone that, on account of the hard choices or the challenges that you face and surmount, gets to be someone to look up to in a society such as this, where, you know, you're not always so rewarded for taking the chances on yourself, you know, to be independent and do something different. It's kind of implied that you would be, like, it's the propaganda of our society that you know, you can do anything, you can, you know, have the dream, whatever the dream is, and it's even trendy and marketable of an ideal. But when it really comes down to who's really walking that talk, there's far fewer folks that are without fear of being outcasted or being misunderstood. There are some that are still walking the talk even with those fears, because as they say, you should do it anyway, right? Fears and all. But there are even more of those, is what I'm trying to say, that won't, you know, step out in that regard because they're afraid of the resistance against them, or just afraid of failing, you know, afraid of taking a chance on themselves and falling flat on their face and having to kind of crawl back to society, groveling on your hands and knees, like, God forbid, you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, it's so understandable, though. It really is. You know, we all got a little bit of that in us, no matter how brave we seem to be on the outside. Or, like I said, for those that do it anyway, you know, with even that undercurrent of insecurity, perhaps, that's still to be celebrated and applauded. It's definitely not set up for anybody to bet on themselves without second guessing deeply about it, almost talking yourself out of it, as a matter of fact. Wow, look at this with the Five of Pentacles again. Yeah, this is the fear though of the worst case scenario. Like, God forbid I can't support myself doing what I love, or I break up with this person and I'm lonely and miserable, or or I can't accomplish the dream that I have in mind because I made this drastic change in my life. I quit my job and I go broke. I lose my house. I lose my car. Like, but this energy, and I would say in a lower frequency, but I guess it's just neutral. It just is what it is. I don't even know how low it actually is, but I guess maybe it is if it amounts to this. But this energy here, in the traditional sense, is set up to make you feel dependent, to make you question and doubt whether or not you have what it takes to thrive on your own, so that when it comes down to it, you almost feel, like you feel like there's more security here than there is with yourself. And which is why, of course, not saying anything too profound here, obviously, but why people resist those opportunities, those nudges. It could even go back to that in the beginning, that beginning spread of cards that came up where there's an awakening of the hidden enemy, so to speak, that's been holding anyone back from achieving some level of sovereignty, of independence, of self-actualization in a way that's truly fulfilling. And there's a difference between those that answer the call, unlike that Four of Cups, where there's a resistance, or someone just rejecting or ignoring the call, and those that do it, like I said, do it anyway. And that could be the disparity of those lower frequency energies of, when you get to the point where you're at the Nine of Swords, or whatever, what was it, the Nine of Swords, and the Five of Pentacles was there again, where you actually resist so long, and contest so long and repress what's really deep-seated in your heart to do, to be first and foremost, and then do and have, that you feel like you've squandered an opportunity. You feel like you've missed the mark, or you've missed the boat, or whatever. Of course, even that is illusional to an extent, because if you still have breath in your body, you still have time, as I said, to shift and turn things around, no matter how dire or unfavorable the situation may seem. So even that could kind of interweave into this, but more so being activated as an affirmation that if you're feeling a nudge, flow with it. It's nothing worse than living with the regret of what you should have done, or what you could have done when you had the opportunity. It'd be better to bet it all on yourself and fall short, at least with the lesson behind it, than to be wondering, to always be in the mindset of curiosity or thoughtfulness because you never took the chance, and then you're still miserable anyway. It's like, if you're going to be miserable, or even think that you might as well be miserable or take a chance against your misery doing the thing that you actually feel called to do. What was that? Oh, the Ace of Wands. I should keep that because it's stuck to my finger. But I'm gonna get another one. What was that? It didn't stick. It's okay. I don't know what it was though. But the Ace of Wands, that's the big chance. That's the living in passion, living passionately. Like that is the dream. Really doesn't, the money, the cars, the fame, the house, the fortune, like all of that is really secondary to the human spiritual experience when you really simplify it. It really comes down to feeling like you have the liberty, and more so maybe not the feeling at all, but assuming the liberty to live passionately, to do what you love, to be inspired, to be inspiring, to aspire to more and greater than where you are now, or who you are at this moment. Like to always live with the optimism of greater expectations, you know. Of course you know. Of course you know. Shoes, that could trump all, you know, because Lord knows, like I said, as I started this message, I'm trying to get back into a rhythm because this is something that I like to do, and this is a place that I like to be. It's not like I'm getting paid for it. It's not like I have hella subscribers at this time, and other things that I want to add into this space and into my my routine. That was what I was trying to think of, routine, when I was thinking of schedule or pattern. But there are other things that I want to add back into my space that I miss, that don't have any promise or guarantee for profitability, you know, or for any big payoff per se. I mean, I feel pretty confident that because my passion is behind it, something will come of it. But there's no guarantee. But for me to take the chance on what actually makes me happy, what excites me, to live day to day and to create, because that's what the Ace of Wands is to create, is worth doing anyway. You know, like what comes with it, or what must, you know, may or may not be sacrificed on account of it, is really not as important as the fact that I truly do get to do what I want. You know what I mean? So the misery, the sorrow, the depression, the anguish comes in when you submit to this ideal that you don't have that right or that liberty, and then your life starts to your life starts to kind of mirror that mindset when you're, you know, taking jobs that you don't really want to do, but it pays the bills or it's for survival, and you're in a relationship that you're miserable in. You're around friends that don't really encourage you at your best. You know, you are submissive to family and family traditions that you feel drained by or depleted by in some way, shape, or form, or discouraged, and whatever it is, you know. It's like when you really weigh those scales, it's really that time to consider what truly matters. And it doesn't mean that all those things don't have value and don't have significance and cannot be appreciated, but when it's down to the bottom line, which is you and your happiness, what's it all worth? What is adding value really and truly, and what is not? Like, this is the time that you have to really be honest about that and react and respond accordingly. Or again, get to that Four of Cups and that Tower where the universe starts moving pieces on the board for you, and then it's even less comfortable than when you move them yourself. You know, and trust me, I'm preaching to the choir, even to myself. Well, I mean, I should say I'm preaching to the congregation, even to myself right now, because sometimes you can get so comfortable with where you are that you don't want to rock the boat. You know, it may have taken a long time to just get to a place where you feel like you can just sail along and coast along, and that's been a long time coming. So to consider doing something that may, you know, trouble the waters a little bit or rouse the waters, is not always the easiest thing. So I totally understand. Yeah, but here's the Eight of Pentacles. We do it anyway. When you find true value in it, and here it is. This is definitely, to me, the card of like doing what you love, you know, like something that you are passionate about, that a lot of times I haven't really expressed this card this way in a while, but a lot of times I would say like this is the work that you do when you would do for free, you know what I mean? Like, or if you already do it, you know, or when you do it, you feel like you could do it for free because you love it that much. Like it brings you that much satisfaction. You're that good at it. It's that productive in your life, or the outcome is that productive. It has some type of market value to the point, you know, with the Eight of Pentacles, to me, it's like saying that it's proven its value in the market. Like somebody wants it, somebody needs it, you know, and whatever the magnitude of that productivity gets to be isn't really comparable to anything or anyone else, particularly in whatever market you're considering, because it's your blood, sweat, and tears behind it. You know, it's like somebody could be making, you know, organic soaps, but the energy that you infuse, like many people could be making organic soaps and are, you know, but the energy, the intention that you infuse into like crafting each and every one, or handpicking every product that goes on your website, or whatever, you know, whatever these pentacles are, like there's an attention to detail, and an intention for it to be valuable, you know, to put out a good product that sets you apart. And when, like I was saying before, it's like there's no guarantee that whatever I do or whatever is done will be profitable, but when you step out in the passion of something that really enlivens you, you know, that really ignites a spark, it's almost impossible for there not to be some type of material return. It's virtually impossible. You know, somebody's going to want what you're doing, or want to watch what you're doing, or hear what you're saying, or read what you're writing, you know, or whatever the case may be, because it's authentic to you, and it proves itself to have authenticity, proves itself to have value in the market of humanity, no matter what, you know, like whether we in recession, depression, whatever, like there will always be a market for authenticity, and for someone to operate in their true organic nature and produce something material from that frequency. So yeah, all right, I'm gonna leave that there, and let's see what we got on the bottom. Okay, moving forward, and this is the crossover moment to Temperance yet again. Wow. And this is literally like bringing those ideas, those good intentions, bringing even your supreme nature, like grounding it in the material world, like in reality, you know, like that essence of yourself that's really calling you to connect with it, you know, that's calling you to integrate with it, or allow yourself to be integrated with it in the earth, and then create from it. You know, it has a purpose. It's not to be conducive to such a high level of creativity. This is alchemy here. So it's like taking all the essence of your life experiences, all the things that make, as I said, your product, your service, your business, whatever, your projection of yourself most authentic and unique and marketable, you know, ultimately comes from this energy here that can't be duplicated. You know, it can't be fabricated more than anything, because people will try to duplicate. They will. But it ends up being a synthetic fabrication in the end, and, you know, and pales in comparison to the real thing. Even if it sells, you know, like you could have someone duplicate something that you do and they find a clever way to market it, but it still won't have, like, the difference could be like it won't have the resonance with the customers. Like it'll be like this, like somebody could steal something from you or duplicate something, and initially it might fly off the shelves, but there's not necessarily a loyalty, like a customer loyalty to that brand or to whatever it is that, you know, we're considering. Whereas you could start off small, hardly anybody knows about you at first, but the loyalty that you have and the quality of the customer that you have, first and foremost, and then the loyalty creates like an effect where it's like a continuance of prosperity, you know, and of success, because not only do you have a customer that highly values what you do, and they're going to more or less speak on it, you know, and market for you in a lot of ways, but then they're also going to keep coming back because you become a trusted brand, or the value, you know, the value is unmatched, you know, whatever it is that you're offering. Like, yeah, you could go get some organic soaps at so-and-so's shop, but it doesn't have the same effect that this one does, you know. So anyway, all that to say is that that's the type of energy that many people that resonate are working with, to the point where, as I said, it's like to even contemplate, let alone worry about, you know, whether or not there's a potential for success or security and stability in what you do is foolish, you know, to some degree, but it's also human. So like a part of me said, it's so understandable, because the system is set up for you to feel insecure, you know, about your own value. It's not set up to encourage it. Not right now, not yet. But one day, soon, hopefully, it will be. But yeah, so this is the confirmation anyway that I see, that some of you guys perhaps that are tuning in are working with some fire, some real magic in whatever you do. You know, not only is it perhaps already transitioning you to a place of independence that you may not even have realized yet, you know. If it hasn't already, this is your sign to know that you can feel confident that as long as you're keeping it real, keeping it authentic, you know, keeping it fair, keeping it holy, you know, not in a religious sense, but just doing things with the intention of the greatest good in mind, whatever you're doing is unstoppable. It's really unstoppable, and it's highly valuable. It's actually precious in spirit and in truth, because Archangel Michael says so. That's the energy right here, that there's a certain grace of protection and favor for those that have the mind to create, to impress, and perhaps maybe conduct, I'm trying to find the best way to say this, like a spiritual frequency, and to conduct spiritual frequency through physical creativity, if that makes sense. There's like a special anointing and covering for those because it's a very signature energy and vibration that, as I said, not everybody carries, first and foremost. not everybody has the courage to pursue once they get the call to carry it and the nudge to carry it. And some don't even have the resilience to sustain on account of temptations and distractions that might allure you otherwise. So for those that are focused in that regard, like, staying the course and unwavering in those intentions, you can't fail. You can't fail. It may not blossom to what you had in mind, but chances are it'll probably supersede your expectations in the end. Yep. Or in the grand scheme of things, not trying to put a period on your life, but on your accomplishments, because really there is no limitation when you have this type of energy in the mix and in favor, that's in, not just in favor, what's the word, like yeah, I guess in favor is just in support, in support. Yep. All right, so good luck and Godspeed, whatever it is you're doing. Keep up the good work. Yeah. And may it be extremely profitable and prosperous, so that your cause may continue to grow and thrive and evolve beyond your wildest imagination, in spirit and in flesh. It is so, and so it is. All right, thanks again for watching and listening. Until next time, I leave you with